of Parliament for the Winter Wonderland riding of Renfrew-Nipissing-Pembroke. We are live from Ottawa with a start of session special edition. Parliament has returned for what we expect to be the last sitting before the fall election. The Liberals will no doubt introduce another bloated, bad-spending budget full of expensive promises they plan to buy the next election with. We have already seen the $595 million committed to preferred newspapers and broadcasters to ensure positive coverage during the 2019 election, which Trudeau says is coming October 21st. And because they have so incompetently managed the House of Commons, we can bet there will be more bills rammed through by cutting off debate. But before we get into that, I have some good news. My private member's bill, C-278, the Foreign Lobbyist Transparency Act, will come up for the first hour of debate later today. I call it the Follow the Dollar bill. Technology has made it cheaper and easier for foreign actors like state-owned enterprises, sovereign wealth funds, private equity firms, and foreign foundations to interfere in Canada's democracy. My bill will require foreign-funded lobbyists to disclose the ultimate sources of their funding. It also requires any plans to lobby Canadians be disclosed, whether directly or through a third party, like a nonprofit organization, where the money's coming from and where it's going to. Now, what does that mean? Why does this even matter to you? We cannot unplug the internet, but we can require transparency from those who wish to influence our laws. Canadians need to be able to follow the dollar. Now, what exactly does the Foreign Lobbyist Transparency Act do? And how does it do it? It's meant to let us follow the dollar in both directions, where the money's coming from and where it's actually going to. So as Canadians, we can make up our own minds. Currently, the law governing lobbyists requires a company or organization to list any subsidiaries or parent companies or organizations. Under C-278, the company or organization will also have to disclose the ultimate owners. I'll show you why that's crucial in a bit. Under C-278, any group seeking to lobby the public to influence federal government laws will have to register and declare the details of their lobbying campaign. That's following the dollar. If this bill passes, Canadian charities, companies, and organizations will still be free to accept donations or payments from foreign sources. Canadian lobbyists can still accept payments from foreign companies, organizations, and states, but they will have to report it, which brings us to the reason for this bill. Canadians have a champion for transparency in researcher Vivian Krause. Her research has been to follow the dollar. Vivian Krause has worked tirelessly to expose the way much of the funding for the anti-pipeline movement has come from outside Canada. Foreign competition is paying people in Canada to stop Canadian companies from working, stopping Canadian companies from keeping Canadians working. Now, this bill does not stop lobbyists and protesters from accepting money from foreigners. It just requires them to say where the money they're using to change Canadian law is coming from. And this is not just about oil. It's about blurring our international borders. It's about population control. It's about forestry workers. The powerful U.S. lumber industry has enormous lobbying power. It pays protesters to stop logging in Canada so there'll be more jobs and bigger profits in the United States. It funds groups to strangle Canadian loggers with pushing to put more and more organisms on the endangered species list, like putting the Algonquin wolf on the endangered species list. The Algonquin wolf is not even a separate species. But rich Americans fund massive campaigns to put animals, birds, and reptiles that only exist because of the good stewardship of the land onto a list that puts even more restrictions on the local forestry industry. It even funds organizations who want to protect old trees but cut them down themselves. Here in Eastern Ontario, the Algonquin foresters are world-renowned for their silviculture practices. We plant more trees than we harvest. Let's use a real example. The Ontario Ministry of Natural Resources has sent out its long-term forest management plan. In response to that, a little-known nonprofit organization says it's found a 408-year-old hemlock tree in Algonquin Park, so they want to push to restrict logging in Algonquin Park. The organization is the Ancient Forest Exploration and Research Group. A visit to its website does not list how it is funded, but if we go to the U.S. Internal Revenue Service, we can trace the American Oak Foundation as a source. The American Oak Foundation donates to Tides Canada, which in turn funds the Ancient Forest Exploration and Research Group. We have U.S. money, foreign funding, killing jobs in Renfrew-Nipissing-Pembroke. We had to go to an American research resource to follow the dollar. My bill, C-278, will require groups like this to declare where their money is coming from. Now, what about our friends and families west of Ontario, fellow Canadians in Alberta? Under the current lobbying registry law, Kinder Morgan Canada is registered to lobby the government. And under the current law, they have to declare their parent company or companies, as is the case with Kinder Morgan Canada, which is owned by Kinder Morgan Energy Partners LP, Kinder Morgan GP Inc., Kinder Morgan Inc., Kinder Morgan Operating LPA, Knight Holding LLC, and finally Knight Midco Inc., all of which have the same Houston, Texas mailing address. Does that feel transparent to you? Under my bill, the ultimate owners of companies like Kinder Morgan will also be required to be listed. With my bill, if a hypothetical company, let's call it Minder Corgan, were to find itself with a pipeline it couldn't sell, it couldn't build, it launches a campaign to pressure MPs to endorse a government payout to its shareholders of 630% profit, they too would have to declare their campaign in the lobbyist registry. Ultimately, it doesn't matter if you're George Soros, Bill Gates, one of the Koch brothers, the Rockefellers, or a Hollywood actor looking for a place to park his millions. As Canadians, we can make up our own minds. We deserve transparency and access to all the facts. That's why we need to pass Bill C-278, the Foreign Lobbyists Transparency Act. The first step in getting C-278 passed into law is the vote at second reading. That will happen on the Wednesday following the second hour of debate. That will be late April or May. It doesn't give a lot of time to get the bill through committee, but let's not get ahead of ourselves just yet. We have to win the first vote. That's why we've set up a special website you can use to contact your member of Parliament and let him or her know you'd like them to support the bill. You can find the link in the description. Then share the site on social media and email the link to your family and friends. Transparency is not a partisan issue, and I hope we can pass this bill with unanimous consent. After all, it was a key election promise the Trudeau Liberals in their platform. So even if your friends aren't conservative or even if they're not political at all, ensuring our democracy works in the best interests of all Canadians is what's important. It's an issue that can unite us all. Live from Ottawa, this is Cheryl Gallant.